Now I hope you're ready to mine, because this episode of Barron's New Vegas Weapon Guide is about the wonderful primary explosive nitroglycerin, and in its most famous form, dynamite. Now dynamite forms the second of the beginner explosives for the aspiring mad bombers of the Mojave. It stands as a greatly familiar source of explosive damage, and one that has been around for quite a long time. Ideally, this dynamite is somewhat freshly made, as dynamite that has been staying in storage gets very sensitive, unless there is some advancement in the intervening years that made nitroglycerin more inert. And somehow, the dynamite also recognizes all 50 states, instead of the usual 13 commonwealths, as noted by a decal on the tube. Now, as for the origins, nitroglycerin was invented in 1846 by an Italian named Ascanio Sobrero, although it wasn't until 1866 that it was discovered that it could be rendered more stable with the use of other inert ingredients, mainly dichotomous earth. This discovery was made by the well-known Alfred Nobel. And production of this primary explosive is somewhat simple, at least the ingredients can be sourced by dedicated individuals in the apocalypse. What might be more intriguing is that nitroglycerin is used as a medicine for chest and heart conditions, and not even recently, Alfred Nobel himself was prescribed it before his death and was astonished by that fact. Now obviously nitroglycerin is a powerful and energetic explosive, and at the time it was the only semi-stable, commercial producible explosive outside of comparatively weak black powder, that had been seen in use for centuries since its introduction in the West. It was only chemistry that revealed this wonder of the modern age, and it was truly a gateway to any dream of a civil engineer. Construction, demolition, mining, railroads, military engineering, the list goes on, even though nitroglycerin and the slightly more stable dynamite caused exceptionally deadly industrial accidents. Dynamite sensitivity was also the factor that made it known as an explosive. TNT, on the other hand, was almost deemed as a non-explosive for several decades before its stability was discovered to be a boon. In fact, dynamite artillery was designed and built in the intervening years, guns using compressed air to launch bundles of dynamite because it wasn't possible to shoot the dynamite with a black powder charge. TNT solved this issue, so only a few dynamite guns were ever made, and the US was really the only one that invested in them. But back to dynamite. It lived in the spotlight for nearly 40 years, making its way as a staple in the Wild West and thus into the Mojave, Good Springs, and the Courier's hands. As for the source in this wasteland, it is from the NCR, supplying the NCR Correctional Facility with dynamite for mining and clearing so that they can utilize more train tracks and roads, an idea that backfired pretty poorly, and considering how many deathclaws that stalk those rail lines, it's probably for the best. Now for this review, we will be looking at the thrown dynamite sticks, as well as the bundle of joy known as the time bomb, both ways of showing your love of nitro. Now, the stick of dynamite does the same 1 damage on a direct impact, and after the 3-second fuse burns down, it explodes in a radius of 750 units. For reference, the frag grenade is 900 units of an explosive damage, and the rocket is 1,000. At the heart of this blast, enemies will take 75 points of damage. Notable, of course, are the potent perks for explosives that make dynamite powerful, but with lower stats, it is less danger to the courier. Now, the time bomb is a different story. It is a placed explosive like the frag mine, but has an impressive blast radius of 1024, but a not so impressive damage of 1 impact and 150 blast damage. It isn't until GRA that we get a time bomb of sufficient power for the amount of resources that go into it. But for the vanilla game, the time bomb is a long fuse grenade at 15 seconds, and it is hard to use in combat. But the fact that it is cylindrical means that it rolls downhill, unlike normal mines, and it can be picked up by the courier and tossed. While it is used as situational, it is a very specific tool in the arsenal of the courier. Now, unlike grenades, the dynamite has to be lit with a lighter to be thrown, which slows it down considerably to only 0.4 thrown per second, while the time bomb requires the setting of the kitchen timer and the hefty load has to be thrown, making for only 0.3 per second. In VATS, only the dynamite can be used for 24 AP, although throwing 2 is typically the best practice to make the first one blow up right where it needs to. Finally, a hidden feature of both explosives is that they can be shot after being dropped from the inventory or placed, which is true of mines, but dynamite is the only grenade-like one to share that behavior. Now, between the slow throw and long fuse time, these weapons are not meant for the impatient type, but with a strength requirement of 1 for both, anyone can really throw them. However, it's a explosives requirement of 50 for the time bomb and 0 for the dynamite. Anyone can throw a stick, but it takes talent to learn to roll it down a hill. For the time bomb, it also makes sense as it is a craftable weapon at 50 explosive skill. So if you have it, you can probably make it. A single stick also weighs 0.3, while 5 strapped together with an egg timer somehow only weighs 0.5, but that is nothing to lose sleep over. Both cases are very light and very usable explosives. In terms of budget, a single stick is going to be one of the most affordable explosives at only 25 caps for one stick, with frag grenades being 6 times more expensive. While the time bomb, being made of only 5 sticks and a few miscellaneous components, is 750 caps for one, which is 10 times more expensive than a frag mine, while only costing 132 caps to craft if you meet the requirement of 50 explosives. A lot of money can be made if you can source the dynamite, which can be bought and found a variety of places, especially explosive crates and the body of powder gangers. But the time bomb can be found on high volume dealers like Mick and Ralph's, the Great Con Armorer, and the Quartermaster Barden in the Hoover Dam. Also, for the anarchists among you, Eddie of the Powder Gangers does give you dynamite every 3 days if you are liked, with idolized status giving you 5 sticks and 20 powder for pistol and rifles at a maximum. Now, there is a rare version of the dynamite with a long fuse that is 6 seconds before detonation, costing the same 25 caps and doing the exact same damage. It is found in less abundance and has less use, but it is there for those that want to make a getaway before the explosion goes off, but haven't invested in a time bomb. In conclusion, the dynamite is a fine choice for the starter explosives expert. The time bomb is a niche case use for its rolling ability, long countdown, and the ability to be picked up with the courier's mind. Unfortunately, without the Gunrunners DLC, the damage is disappointing. But if you have the Demolition Expert perk, they can still both do a lot of work. As for the singular stick, it also benefits from the Cowboy perk, making it compared to normal frag grenades, making it a far safer option for splash damage, but the longer delay and slower throw leaves you at the mercy of the enemy. The most unique feature about either of these is its ability to be dropped and shot without having to be armed. This allows you to set up more kills, more interesting interactions with an ambush, and especially with the faction system in Fallout New Vegas, you can wear the disguise of one faction, go into their camp, set these traps and explosives, and then leave, either revert to your normal clothes or the opposing faction, shoot the dynamite, and that way you can kill sentries, you can kill leaders, you can kill all sorts of people out in the open, all from very far away and using a silenced weapon, but still getting the kill with explosives. Now, I haven't done a full round of testing, and that's possibly something for a later video, but this way you can sneak up on an enemy without having a good sneak skill as long as you have the right clothes. This truly is where the value of dynamite can really excel far past regular explosives.